A helicopter flew over the post-apocalyptic city, and the zombies chased after it as if they had seen the target. In this way, this small zombie swarm went from day to night and night to day. The zombie swarm was also gradually growing and finally formed an unimaginable wave of corpses. They came to an isolated farm at this time. The first guardrail could not withstand their crush. As mentioned in the last episode, Rick killed his best buddy Shane and then prepared to take Carl back to the house, unaware that the zombies in the dark had been attracted by the sound of gunfire. At this time, Glenn and Daryl also returned to the house. They found that Rick had yet to return. Lori is worried about Rick's safety and wants Daryl to help him go out and look for him. Daryl just walked out of the house. The scene outside is simply unbelievable when there is such a large group of zombies near the farm. And Rick was about to stop and say something to Carl, but also immediately noticed something was wrong. He took his son and hurriedly evacuated, then ran all the way towards the hayloft. With zombies all around, Herschel told everyone to turn off the lights and get their weapons ready to defend themselves. Such a horde of zombies is enough to crush the house directly. At this time, Lori realized that Carl had disappeared. She didn't know that Rick and Carl had made it to the hayloft, then secured the door shut, and the zombies outside surrounded them. Rick surveyed the surroundings and came up with an idea. They spread gasoline on the ground and told Carl to hold the light and wait for his orders. He knocked hard on the door, trying to keep some of the zombies here and take the pressure off the others. He opened the door, and the zombies immediately swarmed in. Carl received his father's order and threw the lighter down directly, and immediately the hayloft burst into flames. But even if the zombies were eliminated, it would only be a drop in the bucket. Daryl and the others didn't want to give up on the farm either, so they moved towards the second fence. They tried to kill the approaching zombies, and if there were too many, they could still escape in time, but there were too many zombies. He could only move quickly. He also noticed that the hayloft was on fire and guessed that Rick must have done it. Then let the others drive the RV over to check. Rick saw the car after also shouting, "Let him drive here to meet them." After the car stopped, Rick rushed to pull his son to climb to the roof of the car, but unexpectedly, the guy wanted to prepare to pick up Rick. The zombie broke open the door of the RV directly. He was killed directly. The death was extremely gruesome. Taking advantage of this effort, Rick has gotten out of the car from the back, using a pistol to kill the approaching zombies, opening up a road before letting Carl get out of the vehicle. More and more zombies towards the hillside house, and how to kill them is impossible to eliminate, and the zombies are too scattered, simply cannot draw zombies, which will only be a waste of bullets. Herschel took a shotgun to protect his farm. The women in the house decided to evacuate, but Lori searched the house and couldn't find Carl. At this moment, she is anxious, but Carol guesses that Carl is probably with Rick, and they can only see their son if they stay alive. Lori thought it made sense and was ready to evacuate. She shouted for Herschel, but the gunfire was so intense that he couldn't hear her. The four women stopped caring about him and started running in the direction of the woods. But at that moment, 3 zombies pounced on Otis' wife, and it was clear that she was not going to survive. Now is not the time to grieve, so Lori tells the girl to let go. The zombies also quickly surrounded Otis' wife. Carol runs off course, and 2 zombies come after her. At that moment, T-Dog arrives in his car. Andrea immediately came out to cover them. She also saw the situation Carol was facing and took care of the 2 zombies with 2 shots. Just as she breathed a sigh of relief, a zombie approached behind her. Carol screamed in fear. T-Dog saw the scene and thought Andrea was dead. Plus, the zombies surrounded his car, so he had to drive away. When Andrea pushed the body away, she found the car had already gone. Maggie drove the car to go back to find her father, but there were zombies everywhere inside. They soon blocked the car's way. Glenn had no choice but to tell her to get off the farm. The older man, Herschel, is still stubbornly shooting to guard his house. When he was changing bullets, there were already zombies behind him. Luckily, Rick came to his rescue just in time. He rushed to ask Lori and the others where they went. Herschel said he didn't know what was going on either. Now is not the time to stay. Rick pulled him and started to evacuate. There was still a car available, and they fled the area in it, but Andrea was yelling after them. Unfortunately, she missed the car again, and with the zombies surrounding her, she had to find a way to escape first. The good thing is that there are still weapons bags on the ground that they left behind. Daryl was watching the fire outside the farm, not knowing what to think. At this time, a woman's scream came. Daryl rushed over on his bike. It turns out to be an exhausted Carol, and the 2 of them managed to escape from the zombies. Rick took Herschel away from the farm, the old man in the car, to see his life lived and the home destroyed, but also some sadness. Maybe Rick and the others are right. There is no safe place in the post-apocalyptic world. By morning, Rick's car had arrived where Sophia had been lost before. The supplies that were once left for her are still here. Carl was clamoring for his father to find his mother, but Rick thought that if everyone escaped, there was a good chance they would come here to meet up. By noon, occasional zombies were passing by, but no one else came here. Herschel suggested that Rick take his son to a safe place and leave him here to wait for the others. Just when Rick wasn't sure anyone had survived, there was the distant roar of an engine. Daryl arrived, followed by Maggie's car, then T-Dog. It's great that most of them survived. Rick was the first to say hello to his best buddies. Lori finally got to meet her son. Herschel's 2 daughters were also alive, which was a blessing in disguise. Lori first asked where Shane was. Rick shook his head but didn't say how Shane died. Glenn looked around and saw that Andrea was not there. T-Dog said he saw her get jumped. Daryl immediately wanted to go back and look for her. Surely he couldn't leave her behind. But Rick stopped him. He thinks that after all this time, Andrea must not be at the farm. She's either escaped, or she's dead. There were too many zombies around, and they had to keep running for their lives. And with that, the group was on the run again. They didn't know that Andrea had survived, but there were still a dozen zombies behind her. Her pistol was empty of bullets. A zombie came in front of her, and Andrea was not afraid. She had grown into a female warrior, not waiting for her to rest and ready to start running away again. On the other hand, with the people fleeing the road, Rick's car ran out of gas, and another car could not squeeze so many people. Rick decided to spend the night nearby and look for gasoline in the morning to continue. The crowd was a bit helpless, with many complaints and grumbles. Rick could only stand up to lead the group and comfort them. He knew the situation was bad, but they had weathered the storm. At least they were not separated and would surely find shelter. Rick's words, "The others do not believe. There are zombies everywhere. Where is the shelter? Even if we find it, what can we do? The farm is still fallen." Rick, the leader, is too difficult. He can only change the subject and tell everyone to spend the night down that stone wall. But no matter what he said, there were always voices of disagreement. Daryl then remembered Randall, the guy Shane killed, but also turned into a zombie. Rick finally told the truth. The crowd looked at Rick in disbelief. He went on to say that when he was at the CDC, the doctor told him that everyone was a carrier of the virus and would turn into a zombie as soon as they died, and that being bitten by a zombie would exacerbate the death. The crowd was a bit overwhelmed and blamed Rick for not telling everyone earlier. Rick said to tell you, and what can you do? Like you more desperate? He just wanted to be left alone in the face of everyone's questions. Only his wife Lori came over and hugged Rick, and was just about to comfort him when Rick said flatly that he had killed Shane, because Shane wanted to kill Rick. He first killed Randall and then led Rick into the woods. He had planned all of this, and Rick had no choice then. Rick also gave him a chance to turn back, but he kept pushing Rick. Lori listened to Rick and let go of the hug in disbelief, then crouched on the ground and sobbed. Rick wanted to go up to comfort her, but she was thrown away. In her eyes, Rick is simply a demon. Looking at Lori's eyes, Rick's heart ached as if he should have let Shane kill him, as if Shane was her husband. She was outwardly calm, but her heart was dripping with blood. It was getting dark. Andrea had been on the run all day. She was too tired to run or kill anymore. Just as the zombie pounced on her, a sword shadow flashed and cut off the zombie's head. The one who saved her was a strange woman with 2 zombies chained behind her, and Rick and the others have already built a fire here. T-Dog was on sentry duty. Carol whispers to Daryl that it's not safe to follow Rick. Daryl said, "I have no problem with Rick." Then, he asked Carol what she wanted. Carol says she needs a noble leader. Daryl was puzzled. Wasn't Rick noble? Everything is done by himself. The group was now like birds of a feather, panicking at the slightest movement of the wind. Several women feel that they should not stay here, otherwise they are surrounded by zombies. Rick stopped them. The most taboo thing is to run unthinkingly now, and no one should go out on foot without a car. Maggie's heart is still not at ease. Do not want to wait here to die, Rick said with a commanding tone this time. No one is allowed to leave. Carol started complaining again. Rick got angry and said. The crowd looked at Rick and couldn't believe he had killed Shane. Rick told them about Shane's actions and how dangerous he was. Rick said people could go to the shelter on their own if they didn't think it was safe to be with him. Seeing no response, Rick said there was no democracy if anyone wanted to stay. This is the emotion that Rick has been suppressing for a long time lately. People want democracy in any decision they make. Some still want to say something, but at the same time they also want to rely on Rick. Lori still looks at Rick as if he had killed her father. It is really saddening, and not far from them, there is a city-like building towering. Remember to subscribe to my channel. The second season ends, but I will continue to update you. We will see you in the next video.